The NFL is a business, and a lot of the time there are decisions made that are uncomfortable but are believed to benefit the franchise. Whether it's letting go of a veteran player or trading a former high draft pick that had a lot of potential and had the team's fan base excited beyond measure, nothing lasts forever. And every offseason, players are either released or traded that sometimes leave you scratching your head thinking, why would they let go of this or that player? A perfect example is Russell Wilson being traded to the Denver Broncos despite having over 30 passing touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 seasons in Seattle. And less than a year later, the Seahawks look like geniuses. Now, not every trade is going to work out that favorably for one franchise and that unfavorably, to put it lightly, for the other. But there will be a lot of trades this offseason as teams try to get closer and closer towards a Lombardi trophy. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing 4 players that could be on the move as early as this offseason. And without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. Jordan was the Packers' first-round pick back in 2020, and given he is a former first-round pick, it was always assumed he would start at some point in time. What the Packers were not accounting for when they drafted Jordan was how good Aaron would play in both 2020 and 2021, as he was on his way to back-to-back MVPs and the 3rd and 4th of his career. And you can't really blame Green Bay for thinking at some point Rodgers would start to fall off, as he was going to be 37 in December of 2020, yet Rodgers had an incredible 85-9 touchdown to interception ratio in Jordan Love's first 2 years. With an MVP and future Hall of Fame quarterback, Jordan didn't see the field much in either of his first 2 seasons, and rightfully so, and to date he has only thrown 80 career passes. And the question of why would the Packers trade Jordan is bound to be brought up, and here's why. They extended Aaron Rodgers last offseason, and he is locked in for the next few years, and not just for pennies on the dollar either. Rodgers is set to make $31 million in 2023 and $40 million in 2024, meaning he isn't going anywhere. And teams are always looking for an answer at the quarterback position, and while the jury is still out on Jordan Love and whether he can or cannot be that guy, there is bound to be a team or two that is willing to take a risk, looking directly at you, New York Jets. And Jordan going to the Jets would make a lot of sense, as the Jets' defense is one of the best in the NFL, and they currently have a 7-8 record at the time of this video release. And if they put up just 21 points in 4 of their 8 losses, well, those losses would have flipped to wins. And Zach Wilson at this point is all but out of New York, and for all the things the Jets have done right this year, the quarterback position, the biggest position in sports, has been a disaster. Head coach Robert Saleh and GM Joe Douglas know they need an answer, and now. They could also opt to go down the Jimmy G route, but I wouldn't rule out Jordan Love for them. Indy is another team that could be interested, and over the past few years, we've seen them try a lot of different things out, not just with the quarterback position, but in a lot of other areas as well. And with the firing of Frank Reich and how their season has gone, I wouldn't be surprised to see GM Chris Ballard get fired at the end of the season either. Indy's roster isn't bad, and if you pair Jordan Love with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and Jelani Woods, an up-and-coming tight end, you can talk yourself into thinking this team could make a little noise. I would be very surprised if Jordan Love was a Packer at the start of the 2023 regular season, because the longer the Packers wait to trade Love, a former first-round pick, the less they are going to receive in trade compensation. And there are several teams that believe they are a quarterback away and could easily convince themselves Jordan Love could be the fix to their problem. Next up is Jerry Jeudy of the Denver Broncos. Denver's 2022 season has been a disaster, and they recently fired coach Nathaniel Hackett, but Jeudy has played solid all things considered. He has nearly 800 yards on the year, and he is an easy sell for any team looking for a receiver. What I want you to watch specifically in these clips of Jeudy on the field is how quick he is off the line and how good he is at creating separation. I don't think Jeudy can be a top 2 or 3 receiver in the NFL by any means, but I do think he is a classic case of having his talent underutilized. Jeudy is a terrific route runner, and for all of his career now, has not had a good quarterback, and to be fair, he has had some drop problems as well. But Jerry will be 24 years old at the start of the 2023 season, and whether you guys know this or not, or maybe you haven't taken a glance at the receiving draft class yet, but it's nowhere close to as talented as years past, and teams that need receivers are going to be desperate for pass catchers. The free agency class isn't that good either from a receiving standpoint, and I think there are 2 teams that would make a lot of sense for Jerry to go to, and they are the Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers. The cost for Jeudy would be tricky, as he does not have a 1,000-yard season to his name, but when you watch him play, the talent is evident and it's about putting it together. The Ravens receiving core is not good, and they would be getting 2021 first-round pick Rashad Bateman back next year, but that's a ton of projection in terms of solely relying on him to be the guy after not 1, but 2 injury-filled seasons. And on top of it, especially for Baltimore, they need weapons to be able to keep up with the other teams in the AFC when it matters. Without Lamar, it's clear they are not the same team, and having a receiver quarterbacks can rely on to create separation would be huge. It would be big for a team like Baltimore to acquire Jeudy because their receivers, more often than not, are not good. For as much as the Ravens do right as a franchise, drafting receivers is not one. Their leading receiver in 2022, 15 games into the season, is Demarcus Robinson with 425 receiving yards. Jeudy would bring something to this offense that they have not had in a very long time, and that's a guy who can create separation, beat corners one-on-one and consistently, and make a quarterback's life easier. Given Mark Andrews is the only passing threat defenses have to worry about at the moment, the Ravens should be looking to trade for someone like Jeudy. Even if Rashad Bateman comes back healthy in 2023, having a 1-2 punch of him and Jeudy would still be very beneficial because defenses would have to account for Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad Bateman, Jerry Jeudy, and Mark Andrews all on one play, and that would be a very dangerous offense. From 2 players in the 2020 draft class, we go to someone in the 2021 draft class, and it is Zach Wilson. The reason for Zach being traded is pretty simple. He has been a draft not just disappointment so far, but a draft bust. It doesn't help he plays in New York, and the pressure and expectations are only amplified. One of the last images we could have of Zach in a Jets uniform is him playing bad in a game they lost to the Trevor Lawrence-led Jags in a cold rain game at home. In a game, Zach went 9 of 18 for just 92 yards with no touchdowns and an interception. We've seen the Jets have him be a healthy scratch at points in the 2022 season, and I don't see any way he is on the roster at the start of next year. Head coach Robert Saleh has said as recent as this week, quote, "Zach Wilson still has a huge plan in our future. We're not quitting on the young man," end quote. But I don't see any scenario they keep him on the roster. Jets fans aren't exactly the most forgiving fan base, and with how he's played, why would they? I also don't think it's healthy to keep Wilson on the roster for anybody in the future either. For Zach, for the front office's sake, or for fans for that matter either. If Zach takes the field in 2023 as a member of the Jets and starts to play bad, which we now have 2 years of evidence of him playing bad, it's going to be a scene like the last couple of weeks, but even more amplified. The questions would be, you knew he wasn't a good player heading into this year, but kept him on the roster, and this is the result. As for a compensation plan for the Jets, yes, they would be taking a loss here, as they selected him with the number 2 overall pick, but you would also be trading a player who has 15 career passing touchdowns to 18 career interceptions. And I don't think the Jets would flat out release him, because ultimately I do think somebody would cough up a pick to take a shot on him and to see if they could get anything out of him, the same way the Panthers tried with Sam Darnold. And we discussed this briefly with the Jordan Love trade possibility, but the Jets roster is very good, and I've been a big fan of what GM Joe Douglas has done for the most part over the past few years, and I would be extremely surprised if he gives the Jets a chance to be put in the position they have been put in over the past month or so, and that's a team on the brink of making the playoffs, only to become an embarrassment because of how poor the quarterback play is. And that's a large reason why, even if it's for just a late round pick, I believe Zach Wilson is moved this offseason no matter what. Next up is Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders, and this is a classic case of a franchise needing to move on. Carr has been the Raiders starting quarterback since 2014 and has had some good years and good moments with the team, but he is not going to be the guy to lead this franchise to a Super Bowl and lead them to multiple playoff wins in the same season. He has back-to-back seasons with 14 interceptions, both of which are career highs, and given there are a couple of games left, there's a chance he sets a new career high in interceptions in what was supposed to be a career year for himself and the franchise. They traded for his former college teammate Davante Adams in order to get to the Super Bowl, or to at least the AFC Championship game, and not the 12th seed in the AFC, and to be 6-9 heading into Week 17. Oh, by the way, guys, their final two games are against the 49ers and Chiefs, so there's a very good chance they went all in for a Super Bowl run, only to finish 6-11. Derek Carr lifetime has a 63-79 record, and obviously not all of that is his fault, but at some point the Raiders need to move on. And a team I think could be a sleeper to trade for not only him but for Jordan Love as well is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, to be clear, they would not trade for both Derek Carr and Jordan Love. They would be in the market for either. I don't want there to be any confusion. But the last few games are in some ways going to determine Desmond Ridder's future. The Falcons could view it as we have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Tyler Algier. Let's bring in a veteran to go for a push in what is a very bad division in the NFC South and go after Derek Carr. Will they is, of course, something else, but it makes a lot of sense for Atlanta. And for what it's worth, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a rookie quarterback either. I simply wanted to point out the possibility. But I think the Raiders are in a position where they have to trade Derek. Because if they don't, I mean, they're going to run it back in 2023 with a quarterback who has never won a playoff game, and a quarterback who is the third best in his own division. And this roster isn't that good, and I think we would see the Raiders in this no man's land territory, which is the worst position a franchise can be in. So for Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders, I truly believe we are witnessing the last few games with him in the silver and black, because they need to move on sooner rather than later. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. Until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.